Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at Single Strike Urshifu VMAX and how it is already doing some winning over in Japan. Though, as always, right, when I say it's winning over in Japan, it is winning over in Japan, but do remember we are still in the middle of a pandemic, which means these tournaments are going to be smaller tournaments because bigger tournaments don't exist right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Now, this was shared by the lovely Talonite X over on Twitter, and one thing I find really annoying / interesting is I thought the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX was amazing and brilliant and was the one to go for, and I thought the Single Strike one was a little disappointing. I did not put it on my top 10 list, which is starting to look a little bit silly of me. But never mind, ladies and gentlemen. So starting off then with Urshifu VMAX. Well, to be fair, probably should start off with Urshifu V. Now, Urshifu V here has got a couple of attacks. First attack for 1 fighting energy lets you attach up to 2 fighting energy cards from your deck to this Pokemon. And on the one hand, that leaves you active, so your opponent can essentially hit you. You accelerate energy, but you just let your opponent get a free hit. And on the other hand, next turn you can do 180 for free energy. And certainly if you're against a deck like Pikachu and Zekrom, still one of the best decks in the format, or Eternatus VMAX, still one of the best decks in the format, you are going to be wrecking your opponent from the second turn of the game, or your second turn. You need to go second in order to be able to get this working. But against those decks, it's basically a case of, you have a turn, I accelerate energy. If you can't KO me, I'm getting a free prize KO next turn. That is going to be pretty quick and pretty awesome. Moving over into Urshifu VMAX, we've again got 2 attacks here. We've got free energy beatdown, 100 damage, which is alright. It's not stunning, it's fine. But then we got 4 energy, 270, discard all energy from this Pokemon, but the damage is not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, that's good. But it's only 270 damage. You know, you'll get most tag teams, though you won't get Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. And you'll get a few VMAXs, but really only if they're weak. It's not looking great. But there are free cards that absolutely do make this great, and it is that free card combo which essentially changes everything. And card number 1 is Houndoom. The Houndoom in this particular set, and I said this at the beginning, and even though I wasn't such a fan of Single Strike Urshifu, it is Houndoom and the other 2 cards that really make it viable. Because Houndoom's got the ability Single Strike Raw. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Single Strike energy card and attach it to one of your Single Strike Pokemon. In this instance, Urshifu. For what it's worth, Urshifu is your only real attacker in the entire deck. There are other Pokemon, but they ain't here for attacking. And if you did that, you have to put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Though even that isn't the end of the world, we'll get there in a moment. What does Single Strike Energy do? Well, Single Strike Energy will allow you to do an extra 20 damage on all of your attacks. Now, it only counts as fighting and darkness, but that isn't an issue because you want fighting energy. And it means that you're doing an extra 20 damage on all of your attacks. But remember, unlike some other cards, auxiliary, Houndoom is not limited to once during your turn. So if you've got 4 Houndoom out, you can search for Single Strike Energy and attach to your Urshifu essentially every turn. And bearing in mind, each one of them is an extra 20 damage. So if you can get all 4 Houndoom out, and I know that's going to be difficult because you've got set up Pokemon, and if you got 1 set up Pokemon and 4 Houndoom, that's 1 Urshifu, no backup, etc. But the point of the matter is, if you can do that, that is an extra 4 energy, but it's also an extra 80 damage, which means Urshifu VMAX is now actually hitting 350. It means Urshifu V is hitting 260, and all of a sudden those numbers look a lot better. But Wassy, I hear you cry. What about the fact that you can only play 4 Single Strike Energy, and you've got to discard them all to attack with a VMAX? Surely you are going to run out of Single Strike Energy sooner rather than later. And the answer is that would be true if it were not for Pot of Vitality. Pot of Vitality is a phenomenal card that lets you shuffle 2 single strike energy from your discard pile back into your deck. And I know we're going slightly out of order here, but we kind of have to in order to explain why this deck is as good as it is. So playing 4 of them gives you an extra 8 single strike energy, and now instead of 4 you're playing 12, and bearing in mind there will be turns you attack with a V, there will be turns where that 100 damage attack, which won't be 100 damage, it will be up to 180, will be fine, and actually you're only using the attack that discards all the energy for the very biggest attacks, and this is what we're going to see with single strike Pokemon moving forward. This free energy 100, it doesn't really look good enough until you start spamming single strike energy, and then you're fine. And the combination of Houndoom, single strike energy, and Pot of Vitality is absolutely phenomenal here. Do not imagine that this is going to be the only time we see this in a single strike deck really making it tick. It will not be. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, it's largely what you would expect in terms of consistency. We've got 1 Crobat V. When you play it, you draw until you got 6 cards in your hand. 1 Dedenne GX. When you play it, you discard your hand and draw 6 cards. And 1 Eldegoss V. When you play it, you put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. But we also see a Jirachi GX here, and I love the inclusion of Jirachi. It's a card that used to see a bunch of play and then completely fell off the map, but the ability Psychic Zone takes away psychic weakness of all Pokemon. Yours and your opponent's, but you're not attacking with Psychic, so it doesn't matter for your opponent. You've got a pretty bad weakness to Mewtwo and Mew. You don't want to be one-hit KO for free prizes, so in comes Jirachi to take away your weakness. It is a great card in this deck. Now, in terms of energy, we've got Fighting Energy, obviously. We've got Single Strike Energy, which we've already mentioned. And we've got Capture Energy here. When you attach it to one of your Pokemon, search for a basic and bench it. And Capture Energy is really important here because Capture Energy gets another basic and you need to be getting your Houndoom quick. And you need to be making sure you've got your Jirachi in the right matchup. Honestly, this is mostly here to try and make sure that you've got your Houndoom as early as you can. And that is pretty awesome. In terms of trainer cards here, I mean, the supporter line is pretty much what you would expect. We got Professor's Research and Marnie as the best 2 draw cards in the game. Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7. Marnie, both players shuffle the hands and put them on the bottom of the deck. If you played it, you get 5, and your opponent gets 4. Else it's the other way round. And then we got Boss's Orders that drags one of your opponent's Pokemon from the bench into the active, allowing you to attack whatever you want. These are the supporters we see in every deck. It's pretty standard. And in terms of Pokemon Search, you probably could have guessed this as well. We got 4 Quick Ball to search out your basic, and we got 4 Pokemon Communication, lets you swap a Pokemon in your hand with 1 in your deck. You're playing a decent amount of Pokemon here, and you really are relying on evolutions. Great Ball is fine, but Great Ball is imprecise. It's a random Pokemon, well, any Pokemon you like, but only from the top 7 cards of your deck, so it has to be 4 Pokemon Communication here. And then we've got 3 copies of Switch, which we might imagine, because most decks play a bunch of Switch. And we've got a couple copies of Air Balloon. Shout out to Joe from Cerebi.net and Primal Lugia for helping me remember what that card was. You can't see it much on the deck, and I was very tired this morning. It reduced your retreat cost by 2. Your opponent is going to try and strand Houndoom in the active and all of that, so having these switching cards and Air Balloon is a pretty good thing. We've then, of course, got 1 copy of Tool Scrapper because, well, a lot of decks play 1, so it gives you an option against any tools your opponent might play. And then we get into the single strike tricks. I've already mentioned Pot of Vitality. That is an absolute given here. That must be played as a 4 of, because single strike energy is too important to hit numbers in so many matchups. But we've also got Tower of Darkness here. Now, Tower of Darkness is the one that lets you discard any single strike card from your hand, whether that is an energy or an item card or a Pokemon or whatever, and then draw 2 cards. And this is probably another reason to play a 4-4 Houndoom line. You're probably not actually going to get a 4-4 Houndoom line out. It's probably not terribly realistic. But again, you're not going to use the attack that discards the energy every turn, and you've got lower energy attacks, etc. But this gives you extra Pokemon to fuel Tower of Darkness. And then we've got a single copy of Scroll of Fury. Now, Scroll of Fury is awesome. It is a Pokemon tool that gives you an attack that does 10 damage, plus 10 for each damage counter on that Pokemon. So it gives you a legitimate single energy attack. It means if your opponent doesn't one-hit KO you, you can hit them back harder. But remember that when you accelerate energy with Houndoom, you have to put 2 damage counters onto that Pokemon, which means that you can essentially damage yourself to do extra damage. So in the context of just this attack, using Houndoom's ability lets you do an extra 40 damage. 20 for the 2 damage counters and 20 for the single strike energy. Expect to see this as a one-off in basically every single strike deck, because it's not always going to work. But there are going to be so many games where you just go, oh, my opponent hit me for 200, I'm going to now hit them back for 250. 200 plus the 10 base plus the 20 for single strike energy plus the 2 damage counters I just put on with Houndoom, and all of a sudden that is a key KO. It also means your opponent is going to have to be super careful, because if they don't get a one-hit KO, they could absolutely be in trouble. I like this deck, and it looks like I might have been wrong. I love Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. I've gone on record, as I do with everything on this channel, as saying I wasn't a gigantic fan of Single Strike Urshifu VMAX, but maybe it's underestimating the Houndoom Pot of Vitality Single Strike Energy combo. Either way, it's going to be super interesting to see whether this is a top deck moving forward, or whether it is going to be a fringe deck that wins little tournaments here or there. Either way, I'd like to know what you think about this, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.